Okay, welcome to game 4 of the Medium Games Finals, SSounder versus Assemble Me. So far, the first player has won all 3 games. It's Assemble Me's turn to go first. They both opened Priest Silver. Let's look at the Kingdom and see if that makes sense. So Priest is your best source of traction. I think probably you want to get some Priests. Margrave is a really good attack. Border Village, gaining Margrave to get your deck drawing is going to be quite good. The Druid boons are trash, gain Wisp, Moonset. So certainly Druids here I think are quite a bit better. Druids where you can play to gain the Druid's Gift or the Wisp are quite nice because you can get a whole bunch of Wisps. And then, for example, if you have Patricians and Squires in your deck, you can draw pretty good. And then the high roll they're talking about in chat is if you open Priest, Squire, and then collide, when you trash the Squire, you can get a Margrave. But I don't think that's worth it. I think you really want to be hitting 6 here pretty early, so I think I'm fine opening with Priest Silver. And then whenever you hit 6, you're basically getting Border Village Margrave for some amount of time. Vineyard would be nice, especially like Druid Wisp with Squire and Patricia. You get a whole bunch of 2-cost actions, a whole bunch of Wisps, but with colonies around, I think that's overly ambitious. I think a deck with Border Village and a couple of Margraves and some Platinums, you empty the colonies fairly quickly before that 2-cost action deck gets going. So with 4 here, probably pick up a Ghost Town if they know they have a Margrave coming up in the bottom part of this shuffle. Having the Ghost Town makes sure they won't have to make sure they see it and make sure that they don't have to dead draw with it. I don't think in the end in this kingdom that Druid's going to be worth it for the Wisps. I think there are kingdoms where it's certainly worth it, but I think Border Village Margrave is just too strong overall to make that incredibly worth it. Both players have picked up Exploration here on turn 3. It makes a little bit of sense, like that having that villager handy just in case draws where you have Margrave. You probably end up spending the coffer, and there's not a ton of stuff you want it for, but I don't know. I think I really do want Ghost Towns, a lot of Ghost Towns. So not quite sure about that. Like if just buying a Ghost Town isn't going to be better than that Exploration. There's also Bishop. So like if your opponent tries to do some Vineyard deck, probably a deck that buys Platinums and then trashes them to Bishop can just outscore that deck in the long run. The Vineyard deck, I'm not sure. You can also contest to get a couple Vineyards yourself, and then they shouldn't affect the payload of your engine too much. And you should be drawing deck more reliably than the Vineyard deck that's scoring most of its points with Vineyard. It would be interesting to see like an opening of Double Druid or like Druid Priest to try to go for that versus the more Border Village Margrave engine thing. But it looks like Assemble Me and SSounder are doing pretty similar things here. I'm assuming Assemble Me is away from keyboard right now. Otherwise, they do have this decision: do they want their Border Village and Priest to miss the shuffle, or do they just want to trash an estate and buy, say, Ghost Town, and move on to the next turn? I'm not quite sure here. SSounder also not quite sure, so they're reconnecting just to make sure they're not frozen. Yeah, I think you trigger too, especially if you're going to be buying a Ghost Town. You're not sad. You're not too sad that your village is missing the shuffle. So what do we have here? 9 for SSounder. I think that's just Border Village Margrave Ghost Town. As I said, I'm okay with buying Border Village Margrave Ghost Town 3 or 4 times. Until that's my deck, and then maybe you pick up a second Priest, or then you just start pick up a gold, start getting Platinums into the deck. Probably that deck doesn't need Druids, Patricians, Cut Purses, Squires. None of those cards are really necessary. Probably you don't even need another Priest. You're going to be drawing enough. Although situationally you might end up picking up the second one. And again, I think I'm always on any of these opportunities picking up a free Ghost Town here. Not free, but in case you happen to draw a Margrave without a border village, you can make sure your turn kicks off, and you can see an extra card to make sure you do see one of those good draw cards. And if they play a Margrave, then you even see an extra card after that. So again, this is probably a trigger here. You're going to draw a copper most likely, and then be able to buy Border Village, Margrave, Ghost Town yourself. And again, it's a shuffle that you're moving through, but it's a fairly short shuffle. There should only be 3 cards down there. We can actually scroll up and along and see what they are. 3 coppers. So you're guaranteed to draw a copper, and then you have 2 coppers at the top of your shuffle, but you've added the Ghost Town, which should compensate for that. And again, the Margrave, you kind of want to have some coppers near the shuffle so you can filter them out with Margrave when the Margrave attacks you, and you're fairly reliable in this kingdom that you are going to be attacked with the Margrave every turn for the rest of the game. Reap. Is there any chance that Reap comes into play? Possibly. The first time you hit 7 and you want to ramp up payload, maybe you buy a Reap rather than gold. Obviously, if you hit 9, you just go straight to platinum, but maybe the first time it comes up, you're not quite there, and you've got overdraw with Border Villages and Margraves. Potentially Bishop does come into consideration if you have all those Border Villages and Ghost Towns. Like, you should have more than enough villages. And obviously, Bishop on Border Villages 4 VP, which is, pretty decent. Here's Assemble Me, stopping with 8. I think it's okay. Border Village, Margrave, probably Patrician. Patrician over Squire. Maybe Druid over Squire is fine. Potentially you can play Bishop. You could play Priest and then Druid Trash for some extra payload and thinning. And later on gain Wisps, but obviously the Wisps don't do that much once you've thinned. So it's not super clear to me. So SSounder is going to be able to thin a couple coppers here, not buy a whole lot, but it's nice to thin 2 coppers in a turn. And they can decide what they want as their second thing. Another Ghost Town potentially makes sense to me. I don't think they need any more silvers, but maybe their deck can support 1 more silver on their way to getting platinums. So I would be okay with like a silver or a Ghost Town. And if I'm okay with the silver, then maybe I'm okay with like Patrician Squire. Patrician's going to be almost a lab here soon. They're going to have, other than the Ghost Towns, they want to thin everything that's not, Border Village, Margrave, Platinum, and then Colony. So Patrician will draw quite a bit. So this could be like Patrician Squire. And if at some point they need to play the Squire for silver just to get a little bit more internal payload until they can get up to Platinums, that's okay. Yeah, I did not particularly think, I didn't think the second Priest made a lot of sense. But, I mean, I guess we're seeing here that if you can draw a deck, it does get you up to that 9 price point to get the Platinum, which is a great card. So maybe the Priest is fine and you just plan on trashing Priest to Priest in 2 turns. So in the meantime, it just gave you that nice payload to hit. But Bishop, the normal opportunity cost of Bishop, which is that it helps your opponent, is pretty low, low here because your opponent's going to be discarded with Margrave. So chances are they're not going to have a card they want to trash. Whereas if you bought Bishop in the first shuffle, then they could always trash extra coppers or estates to win your Bishop play. I think here, now that you've got some deck control, you've got the 2 Border Villages, Margraves, you've got a Ghost Town come into play, you just click Platinum here. I don't know if they're thinking about another Border Village, Margrave, Ghost Town. But they only get to 9 money, 1 more time after this, because, they're going to have 2 fewer coppers the next time they do this trash line, but they'll have that silver in hand. So this seems like the exact right time to start adding in the Platinum. But I guess they're debating internally between something like that. They may be considering more exotic choices here involving bishops, squires, patricians. There's other things that one could consider. I in this kind of king tend to have a very narrow focus at this stage, at least, until I'm, completely drawing deck every turn. I get another ghost town now, or the squire. Okay. I think they're going to just want the payload sooner, but we'll see. See how they draw. See what they do with their next turn. SSounder is going to be close to drawing deck. I think they're going to be one card short here after playing the Margrave and Border Village. Because of that, I don't think it makes sense to gain the silver before triggering the shuffle. But I believe the bottom card there is the Priest. And then their discard pile is 3 coppers. So they'll draw a Priest and 2 coppers and leave themselves with a copper top decked, which is not the end of the world. Oh, they must have had something else in the discard pile. Oh, they got attacked by Margrave twice. Okay, so they discarded another coppers. There's 2 coppers down there. So this makes sense to me to play that for actions and then trash 2. And we saw they did not draw deck there. So they may decide to do Border Village, Margrave, Ghost Town again, which gets them even on Border Graves, even on all 3 of those piles with Assemble Me, and fairly likely to be able to draw deck next turn. And if they have the same draw, same play, they'll hit 9 next turn and be able to buy a platinum. And it looks like Assemble Me is going to be able to draw here. As the last card should be a Border Village, and they can play this Margrave and draw 3. Border Village will draw deck. This makes sense. Their first player, it does feel like they're just about first player advantage ahead here. The deck consistencies are pretty similar. Assemble Me has the extra Priest, and SSounder has the extra Squire, Druid, and Patrician. And Assemble Me does have 1 Villager banked, which actually could be nice later on in the game, especially if you start doing what I suggested, bishoping your Border Villages later on in the game. Once you've got enough, once the Border Village pile has run, you've got some Ghost Towns coming into play. You'll have enough plus actions to be able to bishop things for some additional victory points, just to try to gain that little bit of advantage. This makes sense to me to just play the last Margrave. The Squire has not done much. It's mostly been just played as an Acropolis +1 coin at this point. I wonder if the Patrician would have been better. But we'll see. We'll see where that goes from here. So 12 money. This could be Platinum Ghost Town. This could be Border Village something, Border Village something. I think you really do want to get a platinum here, just to start ramping up that payload significantly. Platinums let you do that. You get a platinum this turn, 2 platinums next turn, that kind of thing. And there's just nothing I want for 5. If you had 13 money, I would consider Border Village, Margrave, Reap. But with 12 money, I kind of just wanted to go Platinum Ghost Town. And you actually will lose 2 payload next turn when you from coppers, and then you end up losing a payload or 2. You're going to lose some payload here once the priests run out of food. So next turn you'll lose 2 payload, and the turn after that you probably end up priesting a priest, so you lose 4 payload the turn after that. Something like that. Which is not like a significant issue, it's just something to watch out for. as assemblies, so they don't like run out of payload in the middle of a turn where they had expected to have a lot more. I'm starting to wonder now with the bishop, with the druid deck, the druid wisp deck, if there's like a deck that's doing that, but you also add just a ton of priests and you have some kind of priest mega turn, and you got all these extra $2 actions that you can either play for draw or a priest and get a whole bunch of coins. But I think you're not going to be able to like pile out and buy all the colonies in that kind of turn. Even if you play 10 priests and trash 10 things, you know, I don't think that's even enough to get all the colonies. Someone can do the math on what playing 10 priests would get you in terms of money. $110 is what I'm coming up to in my head. So here SSounder may need to do the Reap. They only have the one priest, so their payload's a little bit lower. They can priest a copper and they can flame a copper themselves. So they'll have, I believe, just enough to buy. They'll actually be one short of being able to buy a platinum themselves. No, they'll be exactly enough to buy a platinum. So again, yeah, I think platinum here is the way to go. And now we've sort of shift from the game where we're trying to get deck control and trashing to where we have deck control, and the game ends up being decided by who's ever able to ramp up and add payload as quickly as possible, but also being able to maintain deck control along the way. We also have the problem where SSounder is going to have a similar problem, not quite as bad, where their payload is going to decrease each turn as they finish thinning out the coppers. I think they're going to have a significant problem next turn, actually. They're barely going to be able to afford a Reap next turn. They're going to overdraw their deck, so maybe they end up gaining a silver with the Squire. But I think that could definitely be a problem for them next turn. Assemble Me's got this platinum now, so hopefully they can thin a little bit more, add another platinum, and then not have to worry about that very much. Start to get to a point where they can do the pile out. Let's see what else. So they get Border Village Margrave. Do they get a silver as well? They could consider getting a silver. They could consider getting some other type of payload. Which feels bad to add like a village and a spiffy and a silver. You kind of want to be adding in all sorts of good things at once. But we'll see what they decide to do. So, yeah, I suspect Assemble Me here is going to be able to gain a silver with their Squire. So play the Border Village, gain a silver, play the Margrave, play 2 priests, and they'll have a bunch of payload. That they can spend. I believe the bottom card's another Margrave, which they can just now play, which seems... Oh, it was a Ghost Town. Okay. So, again, we still have this turn here where Priest is... they're able to play both Priests and get the 6 coins out of it. Next turn, they're probably going to lose that. Or they'll have to gain like a silver. So I expect another platinum here to be good. It could be platinum, Border Village, Margrave, and they could even think about picking up like a copper. They could pick up a Patrician, a Druid, some other stuff here. They've got the money now. They've got a little bit of overdraw, and they're able to start ramping up their payload really quickly. They also just need to pay a little bit of attention to the Border Village, Margrave, Ghost Town piles. Not a ton, because SSounder doesn't have a huge amount of payload, but it seems pretty good for that. I definitely like Assemble Me's position here in game 4. Yeah, Platt, Border Village, Margrave, Patrician, Copper makes sense to me. Patrician's got a pretty decent chance of being a lab. Worst comes to worst, if you've got Overdraw, you could always trash it to Priest. You can even gain another silver with Squire next turn, so adding in the extra draw with the Border Village and Margrave seems to be pretty reasonable. And you've got that extra villager down just in case you end up drawing a hand with a bunch of Margraves at the top of your shuffle. I mean, you've got the Ghost Town too, so you've got a lot of reliability. And again, SSounder's total payload is going to be something like $7 next turn, $8. It's going to be really tough for them to do more than buy a platinum next turn. They're not going to be able to threaten pile pressure. Yeah, they're giving this one a good long think here. I mean, I think we're saying if we buy Platinum, Border Village, Margrave, Patrician, we have 0 money left, so we might as well buy a 0 cost item to do it. But certainly you're right, we may have more Margraves than we need at this point, so we may be able to trash a Margrave at some point. The Ghost Town there feels a little bit weird. You've got 4 villages, 5 terminals, and 2 village and a Ghost Town coming into play and a villager. So like even in the worst case draw, you should have plenty of ability to do that. So Platinum Ghost Town just seems like Border Village Margrave is going to be worth more to you than the Ghost Town here, and buying the Ghost Town prevents you from getting that pair. The other nice thing it does is it gives you pile pressure on Border Villages, Margraves, and Ghost Towns, which you are still a turn or 2 away from having significant pressure on those piles. So I suspect SSounder is going to be able to draw here pretty easily with the amount of Border Villagers and Margraves that they have. Assemble Me should discard probably exactly what they did. Yeah, I agree with that. So play the Border Village first. So yeah, they can Squire to gain a silver here, which will be helpful to hit some good price points. And then draw up with Border Village Margrave. And then trash Priest and Druid. So they would end up with 11 money, something like that, 12 money, depending on what their last 2 cards are. Their last card's a Ghost Town, so they might end up with something like 11 or 12 money, which is enough to buy like Platinum Patrician, which is not a huge gainer for them compared to what Assemble Me was able to do last turn, but it'll increase their payload more than I think any other line that they're going to figure out here. What are they? They're trashing, and they're playing this in a slightly weird order, but I guess it doesn't matter. They're not even going to play the last Margrave. Okay. I guess that makes sense. I assumed that bottom card was just a copper. Maybe that bottom card was a Border Village, and they knew that, so they played it in that order. That seems possible. We'll see if these Patricians ever actually draw. I keep saying that they should be almost like labs in this deck consistency, but so far they just keep revealing 0 and 2 cost items. Okay, so Assemble Me is going to most likely draw a deck here. I think they have Border Village Margrave is in the last 3. Actually, you'd be kind of okay. Yeah, you're kind of okay having top decked a Border Village Margrave for next turn. At least you've got one Margrave down there that you've top decked for next turn. And you can consider how you want to play this turn out. I would certainly consider trashing the Squire into a Margrave. That feels like a nice... the Squire's not doing a ton for your deck, and the Margrave is going to be a lot more draw. And, you know, you get that extra couple of coins that you get from trashing the Squire with the second Priest play. And then Assemble Me would have 12, 16 money. Something like, yeah, 16 money. As I said, even though they're adding platinums, their payload is not increasing that much because a lot of it, their payload is coming from the Priest place. So 16 money, they might consider just going another platinum Border Village Ghost Town, something like that. And probably grab 2 coppers. They should have plenty of overdraw now. So they're going to gain a silver. They're doing this in a slightly different order, which I think ends up giving them 1 more money than I'd suggested. So here they can even go like Colony, Border Village, Margrave, or something along those lines, or they can go, you know, Platinum, Border Village, Ghost Town, Copper. There's a couple of different lines they can take. I do like if they pick up a Margrave, they can't pick up a Copper. If they don't pick up another Margrave, I would not recommend getting more Coppers in this deck. So they start with the Border Village Margrave, okay. This could also be, I think, Colony here is okay, but again, their payload, a lot of it's coming from Priests, so I want to keep ramping up the payload every turn, because otherwise you end up with exactly enough to buy 1 Colony. You can't even play the Priests because you have nothing left to trash to them other than engine pieces. So I like Platinum here, Platinum plus another Patrician. Hopefully the Patrician, you know, draws you at some point. You keep adding in Platinums and Border Villages and Margraves, and the Patrician should draw. And then you can, you know, look to Colony next turn. Or again, even you may not be looking to Colony, you may just be looking to pile out the Border Villages, Margraves, and Ghost Towns. And you know you had a Margrave on top of the deck that you didn't draw last turn, so that's quite nice. So SSounder, again, these turns are going to be fairly similar now that we're drawing decks. You know, Assemble Me has the extra 2 platinums. They prioritize that faster, which I think puts them ahead. But this is sort of where we are at this point in the game. You could start to, as a player, plan out. You know, okay, I buy a platinum this turn. It's a little bit difficult to do in game if you haven't done this before, but as an exercise, you can actually write out on a piece of paper. Okay, here's how much money I have. Here's my deck state. Here's what I'm going to buy this turn. Okay, now I know I'm going to have this much money next turn, assuming I draw deck. And you could sort of say, oh, let's assume I draw deck every turn. What's the best possible outcome? And you got to make sure you count the priest trashing. So you need to make sure the priests have food. Otherwise, you don't get that 6 coins a turn. But you can sort of work out, okay, if I had a platinum this turn, a platinum next turn, a platinum the turn after that, then I've got enough where I could go Colony, Platinum. Then I can double Colony for the rest of the game. You could do that, and if you've done that on paper a number of times, then after you've done that on paper a number of times, you can actually do it in your head a lot easier, or, you know, approximate it in your head to a decent degree of reliability. Does SSounder need to score this turn? I think so. Somebody's got 3 platinums and the 2 priests, so like 22 money is not difficult for them to get, and 5 buys. So 22 money and 5 buys. Well, they might be. Oh, the Squire could gain buys, right? So if they get 22 money and 6 buys, they can empty out. Border Villages and Ghost Towns takes 24 money and 6 buys. It seems close. It seems possible, but it seems very close to some of these maximum payload would be required to pile out, and it may be slightly more than that even. I think as SSounder, you need to build 1 more turn. I think you have to risk Assemble Me piling out because if you just start trading green cards, Assemble Me's got a lot more money. So trashing Squire into Margrave with Priest, but the Border Village is the pile that, like, that doesn't help. Oh, so Border Village can then gain a Ghost Town along the way. So that potentially saves you a couple of money. Yeah, so you're right. So I think as a SSounder here, I'm building one more turn, and hoping that Assembly can't pile out, because I don't think I can win a game where we trade green cards. And maybe Assembly will come up just short, and then I don't actually know. So it's a really tough spot for SSounder. They've got a significantly less payload, right? They're down 3-1 in platinums. They maybe have some extra silvers, but obviously platinum is worth a lot more than silver. So, yeah, maybe you take a province here, or we can see how much money they end up with once they play all their cards. I'm a little bit confused as to why they haven't played their Margrave yet. They have Silver, Ghost Town, Priest, Squire in their discard. I assume they want to draw all of that stuff. And they should have a Border Village and a Margrave down at the bottom. So you can kind of say SSounder play for a dud, or you can say, well, they need to buy one green card, like buy Province Platinum, if they can get to that, or Duchy Platinum. Although it's possible that with Assemble Me's best turn, there's some stuff that they can do. Honestly, if they're overdrawing like I think they are, they could trash a Squire into a Margrave and then play the Margrave for that extra buy. It looks like SSounder's stopping here, which is confusing to me. They have quite a bit more good stuff down in the rest of the deck. I think they want to be playing. Play those Border Villages, Margraves, finish drawing the deck, and maximize their payload here. Otherwise, they're just going to buy a single colony and hope. But I don't really see a reason not to play the Margrave there. Play the Border Village Margrave, draw the deck, play both priests. Try to get your maximum payload in. Emporiums. Wow. Did not occur to me that was a line that they would take. Well, Patricians drew both of them this time. That's very exciting. So now we have to completely recalculate what Assemble Me can do here. And the Emporiums shift the green balance as well. So there's just a lot of stuff just happened. So to pile out Border Villages and Emporia now, and Margraves, you need 27 money, which is too much, I think, for them to make. But we can see here they've got 19 in hand. The priests get them to 25. The Squire's 26. So they seem to be one money short what I'm looking at right here. We can look for a different win if they go Border Villages. Yeah, but if they trash Squire to gain a Margrave, okay. Play the Margrave, so then they only need 22 money and 5 buys. So Priest, Squire, and a Margrave, you can play both Margraves. You have 6 buys, and you have 17, 23 money. So you buy 2 Border Villages, gaining Margrave Emporium. You only need 10 more money to gain Emporium. You can also Squire Silver. Yeah, so it looks like there's a couple of different winning lines here, emptying Border Villages, Margraves, and Emporia. Either with trashing the priest, the Squire with priest, or playing the Margrave, or playing the Squire to gain the silver. Essentially, priest trashing the Squire into Margrave gives you effectively 5 money, and Squire gaining the silver gives you effectively 3 money. Yeah, I mean, you can trash the ghost towns. It's fine. There's no reason to do that until you've counted the pile out. So I assume that's what Assemble Me is looking for now. You do get 6 points in that pile out, so you end up winning 6-4. It's a little bit of a tricky one to see. Like, the gameplay of the silver is a little bit more natural than the priest trash, unless you've been looking at the priest trash the whole game. But again, if you Squire to gain a silver and draw it, And then you could priest. Okay, you priest both ghost towns. Okay, that's a good sign. I don't think you'd do that unless you were pretty sure you had a pile out here. And now you just priest something, and you have to play one Margrave. You priest any non-treasure. So I think Keldar wins the spot to pile out by the exact pile out that went. Sorry, Moyo did not trash the ghost towns, although there was no reason not to have trashed with the second one. So nicely spotted by Assemble Me. And we go to game 5.